In the pre-dawn darkness of March 1943, a lone RAF Mosquito streaks low over the North Sea, its pilot ignoring direct orders to maintain radio silence and altitude. Within 90 minutes, his photographs will land on a desk in Whitehall, and within 6 hours, Churchill himself will see them. The images show something British intelligence has feared for months, but could not prove. A sprawling complex on Germany's Baltic coast, where engineers are perfecting a weapon that could render the entire Allied bombing campaign obsolete and turn London into a graveyard. The pilot's name is Flight Lieutenant Tony Hill, and his act of disobedience will accidentally expose the V-2 rocket program 18 months before Germany planned to deploy it. By early 1943, British intelligence is drowning in fragments. Agents across occupied Europe send reports of strange construction projects, of massive concrete structures rising in northern France, of Polish resistance fighters whispering about rockets that fly faster than sound. The Secret Intelligence Service has a name, Peenemünde, and a location on Germany's Baltic coast, but no proof of what happens there. Aerial reconnaissance has been attempted twice, both times at high altitude to avoid flak, both times producing images too blurry to confirm anything. The Air Ministry's official position is cautious. Resources are stretched, bomber losses are mounting, and chasing rumors diverts effort from the strategic bombing campaign. Photographic reconnaissance sorties are tightly controlled, each one approved by committee, each flight plan reviewed for risk versus intelligence value. The doctrine is clear: high altitude, minimal exposure, no deviations. Meanwhile, reports keep coming. A Danish engineer describes seeing a rocket 40 feet long. A French laborer mentions hearing German officers discuss a weapon that needs no aircraft to deliver it. A Norwegian scientist passes along technical drawings showing a guidance system unlike anything the Allies possess. The puzzle pieces exist, but without visual confirmation, they remain just pieces. The mathematics are brutal. If Germany deploys a supersonic rocket that cannot be intercepted, every factory, every port, every command center in southern England becomes a target with no defense. Conventional bombing can be countered with fighters and flak. A rocket launched from France reaches London in 5 minutes, faster than any warning system, faster than any evacuation. Britain's entire strategic position rests on air superiority and the ability to strike back. A weapon that bypasses both could collapse the war effort before D-Day even launches. Flight Lieutenant Tony Hill is not supposed to be anywhere near Peenemünde. He is a photographic reconnaissance pilot with 540 Squadron, trained to fly high, fast, and straight, to operate the cameras at precise intervals, and to return with film that interpreters can analyze. He has flown 63 missions, mostly over France and the Low Countries, mapping V-1 launch sites and tracking German troop movements. He is methodical, careful, and by all accounts, obedient. But Hill has been reading the intelligence summaries, the fragments about Peenemünde, and he has done something unusual for a pilot. He has studied the previous reconnaissance photographs himself. The high-altitude images show buildings, rail lines, and what might be test stands, but the resolution is too poor to distinguish a rocket from a water tower. Hill's conclusion is simple. The camera needs to be lower. Much lower. Low enough that a trained eye can see details, read markings, identify shapes. He calculates that at 1,500 feet, the F-24 camera in his Mosquito could resolve objects as small as 2 feet across. At that altitude, a 40-foot rocket would be unmistakable. He writes a proposal, submits it through channels, and waits. The response is swift and unambiguous. Request denied. The risk is too high. The flak. Defenses around Peenemünde are too dense, and the loss of an experienced pilot and a Mosquito cannot be justified for what might be a wild goose chase. Hill is ordered to continue his assigned missions and to stop submitting unsolicited proposals. But Hill does not stop thinking about it. He studies weather patterns over the Baltic, learns that early morning fog often grounds German fighters, and notes that Peenemunde's flak batteries are positioned to defend against high-altitude bombers, not low-level intruders. He mentions his idea to a fellow pilot, who mentions it to a photo interpreter, who mentions it to a junior intelligence officer named Constance Babington Smith. Smith has been analyzing every scrap of imagery from Peenemünde for months, and she is convinced something is there. She cannot prove it, but she believes Hill is right. She takes his proposal to her superior, who takes it to someone higher, and eventually it reaches the desk of Wing Commander Douglas Kendall, head of the Central Interpretation Unit at RAF Medmenham. Kendall is a pragmatist. He knows the official answer will be no, but he also knows that if Hill is right, the intelligence value is incalculable. He does not issue an order. He does not change the flight plan. He simply tells Hill, off the record, that if Hill happens to deviate from his assigned route during a mission over the Baltic, and if he happens to bring back useful photographs, Kendall will make sure they reach the right people. It is not permission. It is a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes the rules need to be bent. On March 22, 1943, Hill takes off on a routine reconnaissance mission over northern Germany. His flight plan calls for high-altitude passes over Rostock and Stettin, standard mapping work, nothing unusual. But as he crosses the coast, Hill drops to 1,500 feet and turns northeast toward Peenemünde. His navigator protests, citing orders and flak risk. But Hill ignores him. The Mosquito screams over the complex at 300 miles per hour, cameras running, Hill's hands steady on the controls. Flak bursts erupt around him, black puffs stitching the sky, but he holds course for 45 seconds, long enough for the cameras to capture the entire site. Then he pulls up, banks hard, and runs for the sea. The navigator is furious. Hill says nothing. When they land, Hill hands the film canisters to the ground crew and walks away. He does not file a report. He does not mention the deviation. He simply waits. The photographs reach Medmenham within hours. Babington Smith is the first to see them. She spreads the prints across her desk and stares. There, in sharp detail, are the test stands, the assembly buildings, and sitting on a rail car in the open, a cylindrical object 46 feet long with fins at the base. It is unmistakably a rocket. She calls Kendall, who calls the Air Ministry, who calls the Joint Intelligence Committee. By evening, the photographs are in front of Churchill. The Prime Minister studies them in silence, then issues a single directive: destroy Peenemünde. Within weeks, Operation Hydra is planned, a massive bombing raid involving nearly 600 aircraft. On the night of August 17, 1943, the RAF strikes Peenemünde with devastating force, killing hundreds of engineers and scientists, destroying key facilities, and setting the V2 program back by months. The raid is costly, 40 bombers lost, but the damage is done. Germany's timeline for deploying the V2 is shattered. The weapon that was supposed to be operational by late 1943 does not launch its first combat mission until September 1944, and by then, the Allies have overrun most of the launch sites in France. The delay saves thousands of lives. Hill's disobedience is never officially acknowledged. He receives no commendation, no mention in dispatches. Kendall quietly notes in his files that the Peenemünde photographs were obtained through initiative and exceptional airmanship. but Hill's name does not appear. The official record states only that reconnaissance imagery confirmed the existence of a German rocket program. Hill flies 30 more missions before the war ends, each one by the book, each one unremarkable. He survives the war, returns to civilian life, and never speaks publicly about the flight. Decades later, historians piecing together the story of the V-2 program find Hill's photographs in the archives and trace them back to that single unauthorized sortie. Intelligence analysts now estimate that if Peenemünde had remained undetected until late 1943, Germany could have launched V-2 attacks 6 months earlier, potentially striking Allied ports during the D-Day buildup. The rockets carried 1-ton warheads, traveled at 3 times the speed of sound, and could not be intercepted by any technology the Allies possessed. A sustained V-2 campaign in early 1944 could have delayed or even derailed the Normandy invasion. Hill's decision to disobey orders to risk his life and his career on a hunch accidentally gave the Allies the intelligence they needed to cripple Germany's most advanced weapon before it became operational. The story of Tony Hill is a reminder that war is not only fought by generals and strategists, but by individuals who see what others miss and act when others hesitate. Hill was not a spy, not a scientist, not a commander. He was a pilot who read the reports, did the math, and concluded that the rules were wrong. His disobedience was not reckless. It was calculated, informed by experience, and driven by the conviction that the intelligence was worth the risk. The photographs he brought back changed the course of the war in ways that were invisible at the time, but undeniable in hindsight. Peenemünde was bombed, the V-2 program was delayed, and thousands of lives were saved because one man decided that following orders was less important than getting the truth. If you found this story compelling, hit that like button and subscribe, because history is full of moments where the fate of nations hinged on a single decision, a single photograph, a single act of defiance. Sometimes the most important victories are won not by following the plan, but by knowing when to break it.